Okay, let's get started in setting up in 3ds Max our stretch character. Yeah, we're not doing the short guy, we're doing the tall, skinny guy. All right, so what we need to do first is get our image into our material editor. So with a empty material here, we'll go down to diffuse over here to the small square on the right where it says none. We click on that. Gives us a browser here that we can go in and look for the bitmap image we're going to put in there. So I've got mine on my desktop, so I can go down and check out here. So I'm going to get this image of the stretch that we had last week, and I'm going to open that so it's in here. And yeah, let's go to the next step and start piecing that together. So we'll do the next one in a minute, the exploded view. So I'll close this out. So here are our four images. We have a perspective view here, front view up here, a top view, and then a left side view. So we have four views. The two that we're going to really use and what are necessary to be able to piece anything together for our 2D film is the front view. We're gonna put everything there and build there, and the top view is strictly to level out the elements that we create. Okay, so what I'm going to do is in the middle of here, you can see our cursor turns into an all-way arrow thing here. I'm going to drop this down so that we have really just our two views here, and I might even bring this one over here. It's hard to see at the moment, but here is the area we're going to work on. We can see here's our front view. So I'm going to create a plane, and I'm going to scroll that across so it's kind of similar to the dimension that the original artwork is. But I'm going to use those numbers I gave you last week and make sure that this is the proper proportion. That's what's really important here. So what we had were numbers. If you went over the image, it was in pixels. And for the altogether image, what we had was height and width. If we look here, we've got length and width, meaning that length is equal to the height that we got our dimensions from. So the height, or in this case the length, is the larger number because it is a vertical image. So if I put in those numbers that we had last time, it was 2539, and then in our width we're going to punch in the lesser number, which is 1223, and enter that, and you can see it's quite large, so I got to zoom out a bit. But this should be the right dimension of which that image will map onto. You can see there is some geometry in here because it is segmented. We don't need those segments, so we can eliminate them here. So, but it doesn't really make much difference. But what we do need to go do up here when we take a look, we default into wireframe. We want to go to flat color so we can see something here. All right. So now if this all worked properly, if we go and bring our material editor up here again, with this selected, with this window selected, we have to go here, show shaded material in viewport. And that will, when we drag that over, it should allow that to show up. So with these numbers correct, this will be the proper proportion scale to which we want to work with. We don't want this to distort the image, our design. Really important for everything we're going to build to make sure that they don't get distorted and not keeping the integrity of the design that we're working with. So I gave you another set of numbers, and let's take a look at those while we're here. So if I go back to our plane and create another one here, but if I use that other set, because that one was pixels, here I'm going to use points. So if I, again, take the height, which is the larger number, and that was a much smaller number, so it was 609.4, and the other one was 293.5. and I'll hit return on that. So you can see a very different in size, but it really doesn't matter. Scale is relevant or irrelevant within here. The idea here is if we map that image onto this one, same deal, that we have that sorted out here. Okay, so what's really going to be important here is we got to prep whichever scale size that we're working with, as long as those numbers are in proportion. That's what's important, and that we can find those either by looking at the dimensions by hovering our cursor over the image on our desktop, or opening it in Photoshop and then selecting pixels or points or whatever other system. Okay, so hopefully that's clear and not making things too complicated. So the idea here is I'm going to select these two images, and over here on our top view we can see them, and that's what we want to do, is make sure that we can see those images, and I've combined them together here, which is fine. What we want to do in that top view, we want to move them back from that dark line here that puts us into quadrants. We want to set this back, and you can see here's the grid. When we set it back, what grid that we see. So we want to set it back because everything we're going to build, or it will build default to that dark black line on here in our top view. So we want to make sure our image that we're working with is set back from that line. Okay, so we've done that. So what we need to do next is we want to lock this out, because we don't want to be grabbing it by accident while we're trying to work with our line work on top of that image in our front view. So what we're going to do is going to right click on that image, and we're going to go to Object Properties. And what we're going to do is we're going to freeze this out so that we can't move it. But a default in 3ds Max is that when you freeze something, it turns to gray and you can't see the image, and that defeats our purpose. So in here we want to deselect the Show Frozen in Gray. Okay, so then we're okay there. If I right click again and get this pop up, we're going to freeze selection, and there we go. So now everything's locked. I can't grab anything and move it by accident. This is locked into place. Okay, there we go. So what I'm going to do, and you can see here, here's the difference of using the large numbers or the small numbers. You can see how fine a grid we have on this one. But if we go to this one and go in, it's a bigger grid. So it's a matter of aesthetics or what you find distracting or not in how big your grid is. So when you use those large numbers, that grid is very, as you zoom in, that grid gets very small. But when you zoom out, it's not bad. So it's just a matter of, what we prefer. And it really doesn't matter which way, because when we build the character using the line tool, it's in vector. So the quality is in the amount of segments or steps that we use to create the line. That's going to determine our quality, not the size, or in print terminology, it's dots per inch, DPI. That's how Photoshop and everything works. Is it not relevant here in 3ds Max and that world? Okay, so there we go. So hopefully you can follow that and make sure we're all set up and ready to go to start building this character. Next, what I'd like to do is start practicing with the line tool. It's a form of tracing, but the more we can get control of the line tool and understand it, the more accurate we can replicate the character that we're working on. So I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to just try and trace over the nose shape here. So where we have to go for the line tool is, oh, that's not it. I have to get over to, here we go. So over to splines, get the line tool, and now let's get practice with clicking points. Now, how this is going to work best, the fewer points that you create using the line tool, the cleaner the line and the smoothness will work out the best. So I'm going to go a fair bit down on the nose and left, well, I'm going to, yeah, left click and then drag with my mouse. So you can see where my cursor is. It's coming down below that point. But you can see above that line is, I can control it to follow that curve of that line of the nose. Then when I let go of that left clicking here, I can move on and continue that line. So I'm going to move it quite a bit along. I'm going to, and you can see that it's already starting to create, follow a curve. So I'm going to click here, bring it all the way around here, and then I'm going to left click, hold, and drag, and move that around until I can get that line to follow the outside of the black, very dark outline of the character, and then bring this around. Now here you're going to see I'm going to run into a little bit of difficulty that it's, you know, we start at that bend. It's hard to see that line, but that bend is not following properly. But that's okay. We're going to go back and fix that after we've connected this up. So here might be a little bit of a trick. I'm going to click here and then, yeah, see what I'm going to do. I'm going to go, now I clicked off that without bending it. And let's see if we can fix that. So I'm going to come up to this line and connect. There we go. And I know I've connected because this pop-up shows up and says close spline. I'm going to say yes. So we've got this line here. Now, one of the main things, we talked about quality before, about DPI, and the difference between it and a vector line and how many segments that create it. So what we want to do, before we click off this line, we can always go back and fix it, is interpolation. If I go down on interpolation, it's set at 6 steps. Not enough, because if we get really close, we can see this line is made up of segments, and it looks of low quality. So what I'm going to punch in, my recommendation is 20. That's kind of my fallback on. You know, anything over 10, you know, 15, whatever, but I like 20 just to make sure it's good and smooth. So when I enter that, you would see a vast improvement in the quality of that line. Okay, so that is excellent. That's what we're looking for. Now we want to edit this line so we can make it very accurate to the item that we want to represent. In this case, the nose of the stretch character. So to get back to the points, to be able to edit them, we have to go to up here. We are going over to our modifier, and we're going to add, well, even before we do that, let's take a look here. If I click on selection, we have our points, and this allows us to move them around. And in most cases, because we had left clicked and dragged, we're going to get these Bezier handles, of which we can control the amount of curvature on that line. So I'm going to select this one here, and on this one it doesn't have that Bezier. It's just a sharp corner. So what I'm going to do, I can right click on that, and we have this pop up, and what I'm going to do here, it's highlighted as a corner point. We're going to make it a Bezier, and now we have handles on it. So now I can control that line a little better. And yeah, between that and this, we can try and control it. So I'm still having some issue to get this line to follow where I need it to go. So what I'm going to do, it appears that this handle is way too high, but when I adjust it, it moves this line. So what I need to do, and let's see if I can remember the key to take it. Ah, there we go. No, it's not that one. Let me see, is it shift? Yeah. If I hit shift while holding this, it splits this handle from this handle over here. So now I can bring this handle down and get that line to follow the curve of that nose more accurately. And I can reposition that, and I can move this Bezier handle as well. to make sure that it's following. So it's using this editing technique of getting back into the vertexes here and adjusting them and adjusting the handles. And as in this case, if there are no handles, if it's a corner Bezier, we can right click and go back and change its designation from corner to Bezier, so we can get those handles to correct it. Now up here, I'm going to leave this as a point and not give it the handles to smooth that out, just to see how it's going to work out. Okay, so if I click off of that, now, hopefully we're happy with that line. And what we're going to do now is we're going to go to a bevel modifier. So that's why we're up here in our modifier list. If we take a look down here, we can take a look and find our bevel. And it gives us selection so that we can change. Right now it's just highlighted here. What we want to do is we want to give height and outline. So I like using my top view here, because this white line with this is this object. You can see it's building on that dark line like I was mentioning before. And sorry about the phone there. And I am going to play with this level 1 and take a look at the dimension. We can see, we don't see anything in the front view, but look at this view. We can see it projecting forward, and that's perfect. And now the outline, if I use that, we have to go into the negative numbers so that and let's just zoom in. We can see that angle. So what happens is this angle in here is what's going to become our outline. And this face here is going to be where our color is sitting on. And using bevel makes it work with our other joints, which you'll see in the next video, which will allow us to have seamless joints at the elbows and the knees and any other area that we want to have a joint to make sure it works. Okay, so what numbers we're going to use, that's totally up to you. And taking a look at this, the ones I'm going to use, I'm going to keep it simple. And let me see, I'm just going to try 10 and negative, let me see if negative 10, what that gives me. So that looks pretty good, I think. Let me see. Nope, I messed it up. It didn't give me negative 10. I messed it up down here. Hopefully you can see down in the lower right what I'm doing. So negative 10, and I'm going to hit enter. So not too bad. That kind of gives me an idea of what I've got here. So if you want more of an outline around the character, you can increase this. So let's just see if I make it negative 15. That looks larger here. So I'm not seeing the outline in this flat color view in the front. So what I need to do to really check out how this line and the outline has worked, I'm going to click onto here and go to the wireframe override. So now we get a better view, and I can see that, not quite as smooth as I thought from that other view. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go here in our modifier list, go to line, and go back to our vertices here, and do a little tweaking. So here, okay, so that isn't indicating our Bezier. So let me click that on. There we go. So look at how that cleans up right away when we get that Bezier. So that's what we're trying to do, is get a nice clean line. So here, though, this handle's separate from the other. I can clean that line up quite nicely. So that's better. So that looks good here. So now I can go back to the bevel, and yeah, it looks a little smoother. But you can see how few points make that up. And that's what you should be aiming for, not having a whole lot of vertices along here to create it. Just working up that line and using the Bezier handles to smooth it out. That's what's going to get us a nice clean looking character, and making sure that our interpolation is up here at 20 to make sure that is a smooth line. And just to demonstrate, see if I go back to that 6 now that we're in this mode, look how choppy that is. It doesn't look good at all. So that's why I recommend 20 to clean that right up. And now back to the bevel. So now we can see if that's the amount of outline that we like and that that works. Looks good to me. So we do want to remember down here that our height is at 10. So that's giving, you know, from top to bottom. And then the outline is that bevel, this slant here. Just how much does that go in? And we want a nice thick line, so I'm going with 15 right now. But you can visualize that and see that if that's working or not. Okay, so I'm going to go back to our flat color. And now what I'm going to do, now that I'm happy with that and our modifier list, now what I'm going to do next is going to wipe out our ability to edit our line here. Because what I'm going to do, to be able to add our color, I'm going to right click, go to, let me see, yeah, down to Convert To, and I am going to do editable poly. Here it is here, the second one down, Convert to Editable Poly. So now when I go into that, I am going to take a look what I've got here, polygon. So hang on, I'm going to go to Element and select. So that gives us the whole object here, the nose, and we can see that wireframe of the outline. So I'm going to go back to our material editor, and I'm going to create a couple of nose colors. So one, I'm going to go into diffuse here, and then the big block, and I'm going to create black for our outline. Press OK. And then I'm going to go to the next one, and I'm going to come up with a color for the nose. So I'm going to select this, and what I'm going to do for the nose, and let's get out of the black here, I'm going to make it more of an orangey color. Let's see, I can decide how orange I'm going to make it. I'll make it this for now. Okay, and press OK. So what I'm going to do, now that I've got all of this selected using the element, I'm going to go over here, drag the black over, and then take a look. Now I'm going to pick this next one in the polygon and select the middle, and I'm going to drag over that orange color. So there we go. So we have, you know, the completed nose. Now, is that outline a bit much? Maybe. Again, I'll let you decide as we work on this. Let me deselect here, and I can move this aside. Might be, actually it's not too bad. You know, we chose 15, maybe 12 would have done. But depending on the numbers that you use, that can change as well. All right, but hopefully this gives you a good idea how to use that line tool and work away. I'm going to, the next video is really going to be on the limbs and the body and working on these seamless joints here. And then after that, the week after this, we will take a look at completing the face. I'll have a video on how to complete this nose, and because we got little extra bits here, you can see that we didn't get that, and that's going to be an add-on piece. Let me zoom in. So this little piece here, that's going to be an add-on to complete that design on the nose here. So there's some little tricks of how we can clean up this character and get those extra details and such. All right, so we'll wrap up this video. Look at video 2, the tutorial of moving forward on the rest of the body. And then next week, we will continue on and get this character totally completed. Head, everything. And then what I need you to hand in to show me that your construction and joints, everything are working perfectly. All right, great.